Good evening, everybody. How you doing? Creative Financing with JB. I have Miss Star back with us again. I'm so glad to have her back on the show. But we're in this housing climate. We have a lot of things happening out here in this political climate, as we were just mentioning. But we just, we got to see where we're at. We got to see what's happening out here. We got to figure out what's happening to our fellow Americans out here that's out in these streets, whether they're homeless, whether they're trying to get a home, whether they're looking for apartments. What's really happening? We started a new year. We're hoping and optimistic that our numbers have decreased on the homeless side, but nevertheless, we have to face the truth, Ford and everything, that we have a change out here. We see house prices going up. We see rents going up. We see people being put out, job loss. And then we start to ask ourselves, what's going to happen next? We talking about veterans losing their benefits. We're talking about Social Security. I mean, it's so much that we can't ignore it. We have to address it. We have to get out here, and we're going to get the public to kind of indulge in this and get us out here so we can start talking to these representatives and letting them know what we need here. But I'm going to let Ms. Starr tell you a little bit about Delaware Lines and a little bit about what she does, and then we're going to get into some questions.
Well, first and foremost, thank you for having me again. I really appreciate the invitation and the opportunity to talk to you with your viewers, so thank you. I'm Sonia Starr, and I'm the Policy Director at Housing Alliance Delaware. Housing Alliance Delaware is a small state-based organization that serves all of Delaware. We fight to get more affordable housing. That's housing for low-income folk. We're 22,000 units short, and we're fighting to have more built, so there's enough housing for everybody. And we could talk more about that if you want. And then we also fight to help to end the criminalization of people who are experiencing homelessness. It's not a crime to be poor, and to get them the support and the housing that they need.
So that's so interesting. And that's awesome. It's not a crime to be poor. I love that statement, because I grew up, I didn't always have the best things. I just had enough, and we're all, some people just one paycheck away from that homeless era. So speaking on that topic, Ms. Starr, our homeless population from last year to where we're at today, where do we stand? Have we seen some better numbers, or where we at?
So I can't do it to today because it goes by year, right? So I could tell you from 23 to 24. Yes. But and I will answer the question. I know it's a straightforward question, and I'll answer it in a second, but it is complex because we all say homeless as if we mean the same thing. And so how we define who is homeless is different. So the numbers will be different depending how you ask the question, right? So for us, when we define homeless, we define it the way the HUD does, which is somebody who is either living on the streets, in an emergency shelter, in their car, or in a hotel motel. So that means if you're couch surfing, if you have three families living in a one bedroom, we don't count you as homeless, but the Department of Education does. So when your viewers see different numbers out there, it's not that people don't know what they're talking about. It's about who are they counting and what metric they're using. So that's just important to know. From 23 to 24, we count people who are homeless in two different counts. One we call the point in time count, which is one night, the last week of January. So we just did it, but we don't have the new numbers yet. Go out and count the number of people who are out on the streets, living in a car or an emergency shelter. So in 2023 to 2024, there was 9% increase. 9%, almost 1 out of 10 more people living on the streets than there were in 2024 than there were in 2023. We were going in the wrong direction. There's another way, though, we also count people who are homeless, which is people, we have a call-in center. Some of your listeners might have seen it, centralized intake. And people call in either homeless or they're at risk of becoming homeless and they want housing. That
Mm-hmm.
we've seen a slight decrease. So
Mm,
little bit less, but like, you know, in it, I have it counted, you know, you were kind enough to give me a heads up so I could collect the numbers, which I
right,
appreciated. So you
right.
asked county by county. So it's like about 75 people to 100 people less per county, but not a lot to make it noticeable.
Wow, that's just amazing that those numbers still increasing, and we know why the increases. Rents are increasing. People losing jobs. So what do they do? For
Right.
this, for it. So, what's really putting us in this situation? Is it just the rent, or is it job? I mean, what kind of answers do we get when we ask the folks that?
It's a good question. So one of the problems is that we've been ignoring the housing crisis for a very long time. For decades, there has not been enough affordable housing for low income folk. I mean, minimum wage workers, people slightly above. There's just not been
Mhm,
enough for decades. But we didn't pay attention to it until it started to hit middle class white folk, and then
mhm,
all of a sudden now we have a crisis that we pay attention to. So you don't get into a crisis that took you a decade to get into, right?
mm, right.
In a day. It's going to take us time to build our way out. There's a shortage of housing, 20,000 units for low income folk. That's not people, that's units, 20,000 units. We need to build more, right? But in the meantime, because there's such a shortage of housing, I often say we play musical chairs with people's lives. You know,
Mhm,
the game is rigged. There's not enough chairs, somebody loses. There's not enough
mhm,
housing, somebody's going to lose. It's rigged,
mhm,
right? But because of that, if a landlord knows that I have 15 people in line out there to take my apartment, I'm going to give it to the one that could pay the most. So rents are going sky high, the cost of
mhm,
housing is going sky high.
mhm,
Um, and so then people can't, it just keeps building on itself. People just can't afford to live. And the saddest, I don't know about the saddest thing, but one of the saddest things, I was listening I was listening virtually to a hearing that was happening in Dover today, and they had people with disabilities were talking about how they couldn't get home care people. They were people in wheelchairs who needed people to come and help them get dressed and stuff, and there wasn't enough
mm,
people to do that in Delaware, but those people barely get
mm,
paid. I mean, maybe a couple dollars over minimum wage, right? 15, 17, 18 if
mm,
you're lucky. Well, if I'm only made 17, $18 an hour, and I know I'm not going to be able to find a place to live in Delaware, which I'm not, that I can afford, why would I come to Delaware to work? You know what I mean? Like we're losing all of these low income people because we don't pay them enough. And then there's not enough housing. Something's got to
mhm,
shift. Either we got to pay them more so they could afford the housing, or we
mhm.
got to make housing cheaper.
Right, right, and stuff, and find a way to do it. And now, do you think legislators or representatives are listening to the need, or
I think they
um,
know there's a crisis. I think they are listening to the need. I didn't think that 3 years ago, but I think that now. I don't think that they are on the same page about how to solve it. And I'm not convinced that they have the backing of all their constituents to do what needs to be done.
yeah, and that
Yeah.
makes sense. Everybody got to be on the same page to have a
Right.
joint union to getting this resolved because we know. So if we had to say, hey, this is the resolution to this, this is the perfect scenario, what would we say?
So if I had a magic wand and I can make it all
Mhm.
happen today,
Right.
there's a couple things I would say. But one is, and I had put the link in, it's actually the second one. It's what we're
Yeah.
calling the 1% for housing. We're asking people to write into their legislators and say, we want 1% of the state budget for the number one crisis in Delaware. We've got to produce more affordable housing. And we want our legislators to mandate that 1% of our budget, that's hardly anything, 1%, is going to go for the production of more housing. So that's definitely one thing. But we also need different kinds of housing for different folk. So we just need low income housing for people who are capable, but they just don't make a lot of money. Our childcare workers, our home health aides, our nursing aides, our teachers' assistants, right? Our waiters, our waitresses, our cashiers, our apprentices in the trades, right? All of those poultry workers, all of those low income folk, we just need to get them housing so they could be stabilized. But there's another group of people who have been out on the streets for a very long time. Those people have so much trauma and often so much disability that they need what's called permanent supportive housing, which is housing with all the services that come to them. So they're given a home, usually like an apartment complex kind of home, but like a caseworker comes knocking on their door. A nurse comes and see if they got their meds. They get the supports they need to deal with their trauma and their disability until they are ready to be self-sustaining and independent. Many people will eventually become independent, but there will be a percentage that need to be in that kind of setting for the rest of their life. But that sure as hell is better than being on the streets, right? So those are at least two examples. There's a few others I can give, but those would be my first.
Yeah. So y'all see that 1% for housing.org. Reach out, click the link, fill out that information so we can go ahead and let our representatives know that, hey, we really want to stop this issue of this homelessness out there. People dying on the street, nowhere to go. They might even commit a crime, so they can be locked up and have some place to go. Right. And we wondering, why would they do this? At some time and point that you can only kick a dog so hard before they start to react. And we want to make sure that we stop that reaction and let the folks know that, hey, we care, and we're showing why we care out here for it. I just think of, I went to California and I just seen how they making tents out in the parks, and I'm like, this is insane, for people to actually think this is human, to live like this as a human, and be comfortable about it. And it can happen to anyone, folks. We all one day short of it. Anything can happen. It can be life changing. And what do we do? With our salaries, some of the job salaries not equivalent to make it, but we need those healthcare workers. We need those restaurant workers because we use them. We need those hotel workers because we like vacations and stuff. So I mean, we need to support them as well. Everybody don't want the same living on a high hill in a big house. Some people just want a decent, a nice warm home they can come home to sit down, relax, and talk with their families and stuff. And that's what we're talking about here. That 1% for housing.org. Don't miss the opportunity to click the link, fill it out, so we can know, we can let our representatives know that this is important to us, and we're putting it right here on the table, and we letting you know. And our next question: what is our number one? What is our homeless count in Delaware? Is it broken down by county? And I think you was giving us those numbers. And,
I think.
And
you
so,
want them?
Yeah. So they increased, you're saying, from 23?
So the point in time count where I didn't give you the numbers by county because I don't have them, that increased. But the numbers that I'm giving you are the people that called our centralized intake for resources to prevent being homeless or are already homeless. Those decreased a little bit. So, for example, in Newcastle County in 2023, we got 4,741 people called us over the course of a year. 4,741. In 2024, it was 4,388. So it's a little bit less, I'm not good at math, but what is that, about 300 less? But no offense, I don't feel good that in Newcastle there are 4,388 people, right, who need housing. That's not a good number. And in Kent County, it went from 1,666 to 1,576. And then in Sussex County, it went from 1,269 to 1,016. But nowhere is it less than 1,000 people who called because they need housing. Nowhere in Delaware. And that's a lot of people. And the number I didn't give you, which scares me the most, I'll give you two facts that scare me as much as this does. 25% of the people who are homeless in Delaware are under the age of 18. 25% are under the age of 18. Wow. They didn't do anything to cause the problem. They don't have the capacity to fix it, and they're going to have trauma from it for the rest of their lives. That's just not okay. And the largest growing number of people who are homeless, and then I'll stop talking. The largest number growing population, not the largest population, but the largest growing population are people over the age of 55 for the first time are homeless. Never been homeless before in their life. For the first time at 55, 60, 65, health crisis, lost a job, right? Anything that just puts them out in the streets. And it's just scary. It's just scary.
Wow. And Chuck asked a question, do they have help? Because you know we have some folks out there probably got mental, do they have resources set up for the mental health issues that these people facing out there that's homeless?
Right. So that's a good question. And there's not enough. Okay, there's not enough. And the irony is when we see somebody living on the streets, we see mental health problems, right? But many, not all, but many of those people would not have mental health problems if they hadn't ended up on the streets. Like being on the streets causes mental health problems. I say all the time, and I'm not lying, I'm telling the perfect truth. I am not an addict. I am not an alcoholic. But you put me on the streets to sleep for 2-3 nights, with one eye open and one eye closed, I'd be using to get through, right? You got to get through somehow. So that kind of mental health trauma is real. And there is some outreach, what we call street outreach workers. They're people that go out in the streets, they make relationships with people, they earn their trust, and they help guide them through the system. But there's not nearly enough, and we need more.
Wow. So are those people volunteering to help to do that, or are they employed?
No, they're trained. It's a profession.
Oh, wow. Wow. To go out there to deal with those mental illness and stuff. And it's got to be scary for them out there on the street because you don't know how they're going to react when they run into a circumstance of, desperation. It's a sense of being homeless, but when you get into desperation mode, it really triggers up to another level for this stuff. So what resources that Delaware Alliance offers for these type of situations, and which is so interesting.
So the first thing is centralized intake, which is what I told you before is our call line. It's 833 find bed. I should have put that in the chat beforehand. I apologize. 1-833 find bed. They have the hardest job on the planet. They take calls every day from 8 to 5, and they talk to people who are either at risk of being homeless or are homeless. When they know of a bed, they'll tell people about it. When they know of resources where they can get food, clothing, things like that, they'll tell people. But they're not magicians. They can't make a bed appear out of nowhere, and there's a shortage of beds. So they do the best they can.
Wow. So so is this just hotels that say they're willing to give rooms, or how does that work with the 833 find bed?
It's mostly emergency shelters, homeless. It's shelters for people experiencing homeless. throughout the 3 counties. It might be
Mm-hmm.
some motel hotel, but not a lot of that. Um, Sometimes, but not as much as they need. They have what's called rapid rehousing, which is they're able to find subsidies to keep somebody or put somebody in an apartment. So they have
Mm-hmm.
a lot of different resources they try to hook people up with, but there's a shortage of resources. And unfortunately, things are going to get worse because so many of the people who work to support people who are homeless get federal funding. And if the federal
Mm-hmm.
funding is cut, it's going to make it a lot harder to support people.
Wow, Ford. So, yeah, that's going to be hard. We see so many things happen without federal monies now, and people. I had one guy. He was thinking about doing a HELOC. He like, what's going to happen to my VA benefits? You think they're going to take away my Social Security? Afford and stuff, and I said, man, I want to be optimistic, that we're gonna find a resolution to make sure that don't happen, but nothing's guaranteed. Nothing's guaranteed of what's gonna happen out here, and federal monies have been instrumental to helping these programs. And if they start to really do without them, as you said, Isabel, it breaks my heart. So many resources are needed, and it is, that we're losing them, and we need more. you know,
Mhm.
and we don't know what's going to happen to our folks out here on the corners and hiding under rocks or wherever they can to get a little warmth. So, is there a government bill that we're working on that can assist the homeless people, or is it something that people can look forward to vote on, or something like that?
So the 1% rule is that I told you about earlier. That's one bill that we're hoping to be working on. It's not a bill yet, but we're looking for a legislator to champion it, and we're hoping to become a bill. For people who are homeless in particular, we have been told we're hoping that there will be a bill introduced that protects the rights of people who sleep in public property, that it's not a crime to lay down, sit down in public space if you're not hurting anyone. And sometimes it's called the Homeless Bill of Rights. Sometimes it's called other things. I don't know what it's going to be called this time, but it really is that anti-criminalization of poverty, really saying that it's not a crime to be homeless. It's not a crime to be poor. And if you find people, if you give them tickets, if they can't afford it, then those tickets get more fines, get more, get larger and larger, and they end up in jail because they can't pay their fines. That doesn't help them get housing
Mm,
either, right? On the other end. So
right,
we're looking for that bill to
right,
be
right.
introduced as well. The other thing we're
Wow.
looking
And
for oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. Go ahead.
no, 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 no. You're fine. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I,
For because I'm just saying, man. I mean, to think somebody's going to be arrested
yep.
for sitting in a public area.
For those of your
Mm,
viewers who are in Wilmington, right? There's
mhm.
a church, Sam's, St. Andrews and Michael's on Shipley Street, where they are very
Okay.
comfortable letting people
Mhm.
sleep on their property. They see that as part of their religious mission on how you treat your neighbors with dignity, to let them sleep where they need to sleep. They also have a code purple in their building. I mean, they do a lot of good for that community. But for a while, the police came. They didn't arrest them, so I don't want to misspeak. They did not arrest them, but they told them they're not allowed to be on private property. And the church said, it's
Mhm.
okay with us. And the police said they have to move, and they moved them. They told them to go somewhere else and wouldn't let them stay there. So even on private property, we're not allowed to be anymore. Where are you supposed to exist?
Right, right, right. That is just I can't even, I don't even have any words for that,
Right.
for it. But I think some people have the bad understanding of why these people are in this situation, where they might stereotype them, oh,
Hmm.
these people, they just have addictions, or, they going through drug rehabilitation, or they didn't want to pay their rent and stuff like that. And that helped. I'm not saying that we don't have people that don't want to be held accountable for what they're supposed to do, but it shouldn't be this many.
Right.
that, that,
Also,
that,
we need to think about it is if mental illness is an illness, are we punishing people because they're sick?
right.
Right? It's like if somebody's deaf, are we going to punish them because they can't hear?
Mm-hmm.
Right? If somebody's mentally ill and we haven't put the money into doing the research to getting the cures and treatments for that illness, we don't have good treatment for schizophrenia. There's a lot of illnesses we don't have good treatment for. If we
That's
as a society haven't done that work, then is it their fault that they're sick? Or is that our
right.
fault for not taking that as a priority?
Right. And how do we help that? How do we get them into some type of counseling program that can help them to get better? Because we all have illnesses. It might not be as open as others, you know,
Mhm,
but we all have deficiencies. I mean,
mhm,
how do we handle them is not always how everybody else is able to handle them,
mhm.
and how people can be able to see them for it. But I mean, like you were saying earlier, it's almost trauma when we at a young age being homeless,
Mhm.
and this is how we have to live until we get to a certain point of somebody trying to hire or get us off on our feet. A lot of folks, I heard somebody say, well, there's a lot of jobs out here. They can go get a job and stuff. And I'm like, well, if they don't have a place to shower, or the
Mhm.
toiletries, is that job really gonna be able to keep them there? Is the other employees gonna think, hey, they need to go get their hygiene together, but
Right,
when all retrospect, they have no place to get it together at,
right.
because they have no place to go besides right there. Um,
Exactly.
for it. I just look at downstate where they said some people were sleeping at the chicken plants, working so many shifts, so they can just be able to have some place to stay and get enough money on that check to maybe get a hotel room for 3 days and come back to work.
We know of people in the poultry industry. It's a hidden poverty. We know people in the poultry industry who don't rent apartments, they rent beds. And because it's a 24/7 industry, right? Three people rent the same beds because
Wow.
they sleep at right, they're on shift at different times. So they make sure three people rent the same bed, never mind the same apartment. It is insane. Um, and we all like our chicken.
Yeah.
We like eating our chicken. Well, maybe we should be paying these people who are making our chicken enough so they can live in their own place.
Yeah, for it. And money is not the root of all evil. The love of money and stuff. And like we say, yes, Isabel, we need more gratitude in this world. We need to show more love. We need to show more caring for it and what we do. I just think of United Church. They got the mobile shower unit, and
Mhm.
and I look at that. I like that. That's a wonderful idea. If every church took a chance to just get a mobile shower unit and to find these homeless in their area and give them a shower and some decent clothes that they can change once or twice a week. This would change some people's lives, and they can probably do a whole lot more for it. But our goal is the housing.
Right.
W- we need housing. We need to understand that if you got vacant land out there, let's have a conversation about it to see how we can donate and get something going.
You want to hear what one church is doing? I think
What's
this is so cool. They it's in Newark, and their name is Newark. It's a
right?
play on the word. But their church is trying to get both raise enough money and get zoning permit that they would raise the church, tear the church down, and build, I think it's 3 or 4 floors. The first floor would be the church, and the other 2 floors would be affordable housing, and they
Wow.
would rent them out. Wouldn't that be cool? And I've
Yeah.
been to how many places of worship have land all around it. So you don't want to rip down your church. You don't need to. You've got land everywhere. Why not build affordable housing on that land? Right?
Mm,
And then you have a community of people who could volunteer, support them, help them. We need to find ways to think outside of the box and help our neighbor. It's
yeah.
not just about helping other people. It's about helping our neighbor the way we want to be helped or could need to
Yeah.
be helped.
And that sounds like an outstanding idea to do for that, because it's people to do it, and I guess they have to figure out, the funding would come. We will find a way to make sure that happens. So, these people will have some place, and every place has rules. So,
Mhm.
it'll be some guidelines there. So I don't think that would be an issue. But if we had more folks to even think about that, that would be so much for it. And when somebody said, which county has the most homelessness, Kent, Sussex, or Newcastle?
So Newcastle has the largest numbers because they have the most people, right? So there's no question about it. It's about between 3 and 4% more, 3 or 4 times as many as the other 2 counties.
And you think just because of the population, they have more?
I think so. And then also in some parts of Kent and Sussex, it's hidden more because they have more rural farm
Okay.
areas. And so it's harder to count it when you're in some places. I live in Wilmington, right?
Hmm.
And I live in the Highlands, but I can't go from my house downtown without seeing people on the streets. Like
Hmm.
there is just no way I can drive from A to B, which is like 3 miles, without seeing poverty. It's right there. But I've been
Hmm.
taken on tours of Sussex, right?
Hmm.
And I'm just driving along on some rural road, and all of a sudden we turn onto this road that looks like there's nothing on it. And all of a sudden you see people sleeping outside. You see people with 10 different cars that they're all sharing resources in one yard, or all kinds of poverty that's just scary. But you wouldn't see it. It's invisible. So in the rural parts, I think that there's probably in Kent and Sussex, it's undercounted because it's harder to find.
Mm. Wow. And I think Sussex has they had tiny homes down in Sussex
The
for which
pallet
seemed like a
shelters.
great idea.
The pallet
Yes,
shelters
yes,
are
yes. Have they
really,
considered,
oh, go ahead. Have they considered bringing them north?
have they, yeah.
They're trying. They're trying. They would like to bring the pallet shelters north, but they need finances and they need land. And they need communities that are, so that's the other problem. That's the other hindrance to more housing. We
Hmm.
decide that we want people to have housing, but just not in my neighborhood, right? It's called not in my
Right.
backyard, NIMBYism, right? I want people to have housing,
Right.
but why don't they have it over there, right? And so
Right.
we have to realize that we need lower income folk living in our neighborhood. We need supportive housing in our neighborhood. We need teeny homes in our neighborhood. We need to open up our neighborhoods so that they could be neighborhoods for all of our neighbors, not just push them somewhere else because there's nowhere else to go in Delaware. We're not
Right.
that
Right.
big.
Wow. And that's so amazing that being a small state, that we have this issue. Somebody was just telling me that people sleeping in the woods in Sussex County, Ford and stuff. And I remember growing up in New York, you used to see people over the garbage cans where they burn the trash and to keep warm. And it just seems like at some point in time you think it's getting better, but sometimes it seems like it's a bigger fight than we can ever imagine. And I think Sussex County or Kent County might have a lot of land, but I think our fight down in that area is our farming and our agriculture, and you can expand on that there.
Which is true, and we need that, right? We need our farms, we need our poultry industry, we need our agriculture, we need all of that. I'm not saying we don't. I'm saying that we have to work together to solve this problem instead of make it somebody else's problem, right? I have to see the person that's experiencing homelessness, the person sleeping on the street. I have to look at them and, because you've seen my signature. I'm a person of faith, right? I'm a rabbi, and I'm Jewish.
Right.
And I have to look at the person who looks nothing like me, isn't acting like me, doesn't smell like me, doesn't sound like me, like they're still made in God's image. And if they're still made in God's image, then I have to be willing to do something that helps bring out that image of God out of them, instead of deciding that they're just not worth it and giving up on people. You don't give up on human beings. It's not a sacred thing. I would not want anybody to give up on me or anyone I love. So how dare I give up on somebody else?
Right. And we can't do that. So I mean, my next question is, I know we have some events coming up that we can help support that you offered. Tell us a little bit about that. And
so I'll tell you the big one, which is May 22nd, 2025. I'll say it over and over again. May 22nd, May 22nd, May 22nd. I want your visitors, your viewers, all to be in Dover on May 22nd at Legislative Hall. That's the first link I have put in for Day for Housing. That's the one where we bring people from all across Delaware to Dover, and we go into our legislators and we say, we need more housing. We need supportive housing. We need you to do something about it. And by May, I can tell you actual bill numbers. I can tell you what things we're advocating for and against. They haven't been introduced yet. It's too early, but by May we'll know that. And I've only been here for 3 years, so I'm still new to this job. But one of the things I noticed last year, we had 139 people in Dover last year, and that was the most we'd ever had. And for the first time, legislators were coming to us and saying, so why are you all here? We got their attention. So my goal this year is to have 150 or more, and I want their intention. I want them to know we're coming. I want them to talk to us, and I want them to get serious that they have to be part of the solution, because we all know if you're not part of the solution, you are part of the problem.
You're part of the problem.
And so we need people from everywhere.
Yeah, and I can tell the viewers right now, I attended that. That was a wonderful time where I really sat down for the first time and talked to my representative. To be honest, I didn't even know who it was at first. And I'm like, wow, you're in my community, I don't know. And they introduced me to some things of what they're doing in the community, what we're having. But when we started talking about housing, we started talking about being able to find space for people. We talked about empty homes, abandoned homes, and that conversation led on. I mean, it was a whole day. I mean, it was amazing. I didn't think I was going to be in there talking to them that long, but it was a great time. And that day is May 22nd, 2025. We're going to be in Dover again. And it's going to be an opportunity for us to go out there, talk to our legislators about this housing, let them know that we need more housing, that we need affordable housing, that if people have lands, we want to find ways to kind of increase that for our investors out there. If you have land or something and you want to build and get something, and hopefully we can get some funding for you, that you can have that, so we can support this homeless population, and keep them off the streets, give them some place nice and warm, and give them some place for the winter. Who wants to be in a shelter someplace for the holidays, where you already don't have no family, but just to have peace of mind with yourself, for that. But May 22nd, 2025 is a big day. I can testify. I went to it last year. It was amazing, for us to go through that, and we had the exhibits before we went over to Leg Hall, and we have folks in there talking, from our military folks to other nonprofits, and we sat down at the table. Wonderful conversations. Wonderful conversations. We got the link there. Step out, come spend a day with us, meet some new friends, meet some folks that you probably need to know, and that you might have some questions down the line. Why is this happening in our neighborhood? Why we have this open land and we can do this, why we have so many homeless people walking in our neighborhoods at night. And they can probably have to answer that question, because this is an opportunity for them to be able to say, hey, you're in that office, talk to us. Let us know what this is all about, for it. And this is what we can do to help our housing shortage. This is what we can do to really get this thing all structured, so we can we can be out there in the community. But the best thing of it, you have to know your representatives.
And I can help you with that, right?
Yeah.
So if you go to Day for Housing and sign up and you don't know who your rep is, or you've never talked to an elected official, there's no shame in that. You'll find my email on that link. Email me and say you want a one-on-one. Email me and we could talk about how to do it. I'm happy to coach people, happy to help you out. Everybody has a first time.
Mm-hmm.
By definition, nobody, you're not born talking to elected officials.
Right.
You got to have a first time, and you can only have a second time if you have a first time.
Right.
So let me help you do that, because they care. They care because you are their boss, right? You
Mm-hmm.
are the one that put them in office, which my definition means the one that could take them out of office, and they care.
That's right. That's right. And we can change this housing shortage for it, and make it affordable. We have abandoned homes out there. We have folks that's in nursing homes, assisted living places. Reach out. You can even contact me if you have that. I can pass that on to Sonia. Maybe it's a way that we can have somebody fix those houses up, so they can go in there and we can make them affordable, for them to do that as well. We have some contractors out there, that want to volunteer to help some services. And when I say volunteer, we're not talking about all free labor and stuff, but we talking about going out there to assist and get that. We might have some folks that have rentals that want to make them affordable. Let's look at that mindset, and not we're just giving people stuff for free. We're just trying to donate, because I know that for me to feel worthy, I want to feel like I gave something to where I'm living or anything I'm doing, or something. So that helps us out in the long run, for it, that we can be able to change this. And that's one key way to change this event. And Ms. Starr, you can probably, how did this come about where we had this legislative day of going up there? I mean, where did that start at?
Well, that's a good question. That predates me. So I'm
Okay.
not sure. I know they've been doing it for a while. I don't know how long or how it got started, but we're not the only organization that does it. Like, I know ACLU has a day, like different organizations do it. It's a way of creating visibility and letting the community know what's going on. And then the other thing, just to throw this out there for your viewers, is we are looking for sponsors. And that people have until the end of March. And if you follow the link that's going on the bottom, it'll take you to our sponsorship page as well as our registration page. And sponsorship is a way that you can support the advocacy work we do, because it's hard to find funding for advocacy work, but you don't get legislation passed if you don't have advocates. So any support we can get, we greatly appreciate.
Folks, so you see that. Anybody that want to do a sponsorship, feel free, click on the link, give a donation. Every little bit counts.
Absolutely.
Every little bit counts. We're trying to make a difference out here. We're trying to get our folks to know that we care, because they said if you show them, they really can be seeing that we care in our community here. And that's what we're trying to do, for it. So we know Ms. Starr and her Delaware Alliance, are y'all a nonprofit or?
We are 501c3, sorry.
501c3, they're nonprofit. They're doing some hard work out here at a nonprofit status that you would think they were normal state or federal employees, But I mean, they're working out here to get sponsorships, to keep passing the word, to save our communities, to save our folks out there from dying on the street, so they can be treated like human beings once again, so we can be able to have a natural form of living. I remember in New York, it was fun to go out there in the summer and put a tent up and sleep in Central Park, and then pick it up and you can go to your house, when people are doing that on purpose now. It's not.
They don't have any house to go to.
Right. They don't have nothing. And Delaware Alliance, as we talk about the free, they find free beds and rooms. I mean, it's some work out here. So I'm highly commending that y'all click on a link, put it in there, make a donation to sponsor this event for it, so we can keep going forth and doing the things we did. I think last week, NAVETS, National Association of Black Veterans, and Rodney, and the NAACP, we were giving out free coats. These people are still cold out here. People say, "Oh, you should have did it in the winter." It's still winter out here. We're giving out free coats. We're finding the veterans. We're finding the homeless. We're earmarking the churches that's going out there doing this work, so we can be able to still help this community. Because we had a cold week last week, and we did this because people might not hear a lot about people dying out here in the cold of homelessness, and those are some of the last news articles that we really hear, but it's real life situations. That's why I talk about it. I preach about affordable housing. That's my passion as well, making sure that these folks get some financing that's able to buy a house out here, and make sure that it's reasonable for them. Make sure they're able to live in comfort, not be overwhelmed to where you got foreclosure you're looking at. And then guess what? You're still back in the same predicament, and we're adding to the population. But giving people the resources they need and the items that helps them along the way. I'm excited about May 22nd, 2025. It's going to be my second year. Yes, it's very good. It's going to be my second year going. And, I wouldn't miss it. It was an eye-opening experience for me to know that we had something where we can have this conversation. And our legislators, they sat there and they talked to us. They gave us their time for which was commendable for it. And we even had a nice lunch.
Well, we just got our food truck. You're right. Anybody who you have to sign up ahead of time. But if you sign up ahead of time, you do get a free lunch ticket, and it's scrape the plate is the truck,
right.
The food truck this year.
Oh, that's awesome and stuff, and that's great. We have something that you're coming out there, you're getting a meal for it, but we're making a change. We're making a change to change our environment, our communities, and to keep our population inside of warm, comfortable homes for it, and see it is happening. I don't know, and maybe you can talk about this, Mister. Are they thinking about building more tiny homes or?
So there's been talk about more tiny homes. Sometimes they talk about they call it manufactured homes instead of tiny homes. When I was a kid, we used to call them mobile
Mhm,
homes, right? There's different names people use for them. But now some of them are 3D like built and
mhm,
stuff. The world's changed since I was a little kid, but they are talking about more and more of them. We used to have more. I was just at a meeting last week where they were talking about we lost about 6,000 manufactured homes in Delaware. We used to have more of them, and trying to find a way to build more of them because they are more affordable. They were saying that you can buy like a 2 bedroom manufactured home for like, what was it? It was about $135,000 or something like that.
wow.
Um, and that's a new one. That's a brand new one. And they said that you could buy a used one for like $65,000, and then you own the home. Now you
Mhm,
don't own the land; you have to
right.
rent the land, but you
Mhm,
at least own the home. It's yours, right? You
mhm,
ain't finding a home anywhere, condo anywhere for $135,000. So it's at least a good first step. Like it's a
yeah.
start, and then
Right.
people can sell it and build equity and buy something bigger.
Yeah, and like Chuck said, that is a great price. But what's also so interesting about that, that's great rental space
Correct.
for investors out there that's looking. You know, why not have a manufactured home as a rental?
That's
It
right.
it
And there are
it's
some.
yeah,
There are some.
it's quite a bit, and it's I mean it's good money to have it, and
Mhm.
maybe some of our it can be affordable for some of our homeless folks that
Mhm.
still have some money coming in because I want to just reference that just because you're homeless don't mean that you have no type of monies, but you don't have where it is the land, is there land
She's
fee?
right. Miss Winston is right. It's the land fee. So if you rent a manufactured home, the owner of the manufactured home is renting the land.
Hmm.
Sometimes they both own the land and home, but often there's two different things. And so
Right.
it's the land fee that can be really prohibitive. But that depends, there's some states, I don't know if we have one in Delaware. You might, that I don't know about. Your viewers can educate me. But in some states, they have what they call cooperatives. So, like, they're all manufactured homes in one community, and they've
Mhm.
all own the land together and they manage it together. So now one person has to put up all the money and then they help each other out. So there are ways around it, but you have to really study it and know what you're getting into. It's complicated.
Right. Yeah, because the land fees they can be horrendous. They
Right.
can be almost like a rental for an apartment if you go to it. But that's conversation that we can have with these manufactured home parks. Say, hey,
Mhm.
we're trying to do something affordable here. We need to get together and see if we can work something out to where our homeless can afford to be able to rent something like this and make it affordable for them so people are not just losing money out. And that's a thought process that we might have to come up with to think about it for it because it's so many different ideas out here that we can put together to try to figure out, but it's the thought of us just coming together.
Right.
Folks, I don't want to miss the opportunity to say, click on the link, put it in your browser, go ahead and register. We want to pack it. We want to pack Leg Hall. We want to let them know that we're out. We're serious about what we're doing. We're going to increase the audience and we're going to keep it going from here on out, from every community, every county. We all can be present right there because these representatives, they all coming it over. They know that it's coming and they're prepared to hopefully provide some solution to us. Let us know about the open bills that's on the table. And
Will
that's what
do.
last year. They told us about these open bills and stuff, and we want to know where they're at with it, why this didn't go through, why is this not passing, and then we can get those answers so we know what's going on in this era right here. But it's a great opportunity to do that. But we had the little exhibits prior that we had, and we was talking to the folks there from the VAMC and the different organizations, and Ms. Starr's team kind of educated us on how we present to these representatives so they understand that we're knowledgeable about what's happening, that we're not going in there just to say we showed up, but we're going in there with some tasks in hand, and we're getting that handled for them and with them. But invite your friends. I mean, pass the word on to each and every one. So if we pack the house and we overfull, we overfull. That's a
That's a
statement.
good thing.
Yeah,
That's a good thing.
that is a huge statement we want to make and get it there. But Ms. Starr, do you have any closing remarks for us before we go and let our audience know? Man, I appreciate you showing up and having this opportunity to discuss these topics with you.
I'm just grateful. I'm grateful for the opportunity to talk with you, to have your viewers engage. I think that the final note that I would just want to say is that the true privilege of my job is being able to work with people like you all in the community who care and are willing to put yourself out to help, because you too are members of our community, and our community is what we want it to be. And the more those of us who care get active and participate, it's more the community we want to live in. And so I'm grateful. Thank you.
Yeah. One question I left out is somebody said, do we have Indian reservations in Delaware where we can probably get land or anything like that you know about?
Reservation? Do you mean like Native American like a
Yes.
Indian reservation?
Yes.
And there's none in Delaware that I know of.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because we was just wondering anything on the outskirts that, probably not being utilized. Because
I don't know of any in Delaware.
okay. Yeah, because that's a great idea. If we had some, we might want to look at those avenues as well. But if you're seeing land out here and y'all thinking about developing, it's a need. It's a need. It's some funding we probably can get you that I can have a conversation with y'all about. But we want to make it affordable, and we want to see if maybe we can get some funds to help accommodate that from federal funds, which is it might be hard, but we got to give it a shot. We got to reach out and try to do it and see if that's able so we can help it, and we'll have more rentals, because I tell you, people will honor a second chance if they get another opportunity to do something great and to change their lives around for the better. But this creative financing with JB, this Miss Starr, I'm so wonderful. I'm so grateful. I thank y'all for watching, attending. May 22nd, 2025 is a date. Mark your calendar. We'll be there. We would love to see you there and do it again. Y'all have a great evening, and I'll see you next week. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks.